Hey guys, how's it going? My name is SNKLZ. Welcome back, and in today's video we are going to be doing the Oathbound Paladin build, an updated version which you guys have been waiting for. A lot of requests and people have been asking for it. It's been a long time coming and we're finally ready to do it, seeing as we have had that double refinement and been able to get the right pieces of gear that I do want to show off for you guys. Anyway, let's get straight into it without further ado. So this is going to be a bit of a quicker version, I hope, of the video and the build from the previous build, purely on the fact that a lot of it is still the same. There are a few changes, not many, but I will go over in detail the reasons why the build has changed slightly. If you want to go and watch my R.I.P Bubble build, that is the main reason why it has changed, and I will explain shortly in there why as well again. So just quickly going to look at the gear. Got elven gear on all of the stuff. I haven't got any of the guild stuff yet. We have the twisted main hand, twisted offhand, 4 mythic artifacts. We have the black ice belt, and then the black ice neck. We have a rising ring of defense, rising ring of brutality as well on there, and then we have the Drowcast chain coat and the Drowcast trousers. And so you get to see how this build is. It's not the best, it's not the top end, and it is easy enough to get here, but it's nice to see that I'm not at the very end game, because some people were saying, oh, I'll never get there because you're so far ahead of everyone else. No, this is certainly showing off the fact that you can get to as good as me and be there in a short period of time. So we're going to run over the powers and things like that first, to settle off, because these are the main things that you're going to be looking at. So we have the Radiant Strike on the secondary at will. So this is like a shield bash. It gives you some extra damage as well, which is really nice, as well as armor penetration by 5% for 15 seconds. So that is really nice. So the next one you're going to have as your main one is Valorous Strike. This is the main one we're going to be using a lot. It increases your damage resistance by 5% as well while it's up. It lasts for 15 seconds again. So go in with the Radiant Strike and then start off with the Valorous Strike as well to get that extra boosts and things like that, to proc and get some extra health up and things like that, and defense. Then we're going to look at the main encounter powers. So I've gone with Burning Light. Originally I think I had Smite or Bane on, and I might have said use Burning Light a little bit, but now Burning Light is one of the best ones to have, purely for the fact that it generates so much AP so quickly. It is amazing. If you just click the button, you don't even charge it up, it generates a massive amount of AP compared to the other encounters that we're going to be using, as well as doing a nice amount of damage if you do put it up to the full bar and let it burn out until the encounter is finished. So it lasts for 4 seconds, and it also blinds them for like a tiny second, a little time, which is really nice. It holds them off for a little bit. Obviously if they haven't been stunned by it, then they can't be stunned by a lot else, and that will include Templar's Wrath and things like that. And you also take 100% more healing while emitting it. So of course, again, this is great if your temporary hit points are dropping a lot in Castle Never, things like that, while you're getting hit by Orcus. So that is a really nice extra one to have. As I say, definitely pick Burning Light, but Bane is another one that you might want to use. We'll just hop down there, purely the fact that it stacks up to 3 times, and the target deals 10% less damage and takes 10% more damage. So again, increasing your DPS and reducing the amount you take, which is great for us. Stacks up to 3 times. If you're taking too much against Orcus, pop this on and it should help you out a lot. Then we go on to the second one, is Templar's Wrath. So this, of course, is one of the biggest ones you have. Gain temporary hit points equal to 300% of the damage dealt. So this is going to be a massive factor within the crit strike, the armor pen, and the power of our Paladin. So that is the reason we're still going to hit DPS quite heavily, or we want to be pushing the DPS still a lot, because the Templar's Wrath is a massive amount, and you can get it up so high. If you have a lack of power and things like that, this isn't going to be getting you those massive numbers in the temporary hit points, but it's still going to do well for you. It's really great to have. Then we go down to Binding Oath. This has been affected and changed. Look at the R.I.P Bubble build for the exact numbers and the changes and things like that. But for this build, we can forget about that for this second, and it is still a very viable encounter power in the build, purely because you take 50% of that damage that is dealt to you, so say 1 million for easy numbers, and then it cuts it down to 500,000, and then you deal like 200k, which is nice. It is nice. So we'd probably change those numbers by take off a 0 on them, which is really nice. It keeps you alive a lot. It does keep you alive a lot. As I say, you're taking 50% of the damage. It used to be higher than that, but never mind. We forget. We get on with it and we move on. So then the next one we're going to have is the dailies. We're going to go with Divine Protector. We are still pushing the bubble. We are not moving away from the bubble any time soon yet, boys. Even though the time of it, the duration has been reduced from 20 seconds. It has been reduced down to 6, which is the reason I made the R.I.P Bubble build. But we're still going to push it. The reason they changed it was so it was emergency button, and now you want to be smashing that emergency button as often as possible and as many times as possible to keep your team alive and also yourself, so that you can reduce all the damage by 50%. It is really, really nice. It helps you out a lot, keeps everyone alive, especially if someone's gone down. You can just pop it straight after they get revived and then keep them alive for a little bit longer and help them get back to full health. So that is the main parts of the build of that side. The last ones we want to go through is Divine Judgment. This is a single daily. It's very, very powerful. Only use it on sort of like if you're very, very comfortable with the defense and the attacks that the boss or the enemies are giving you. If you're going down or taking a lot of damage, definitely put on Divine Protector. It's still going to give you a lot of DPS from it, seeing as you're reflecting a lot of stuff back. But this is great if you've got a small mob and they're not doing much and you just want to clear them out real quickly. You can get this easily up to 100k damage. And the class features are Aura of Courage. We're still going to sit with this purely with the fact of the massive amount of maximum hit points that you have, and you can deal that as bonus Radiant as well as your allies as well. And then the final class feature we're going with is, again, still sitting with Aura of Vengeance. When you or an ally within 30 take damage, they deal 15% of the weapon damage to your attacker. Again, really, really nice one. There are some other ones in there which you could take if you're a lower level, like Aura of Wisdom or Aura of Truth. These are very easily nice ones to have, but when you're end game, you want Aura of Vengeance. You shouldn't be taking too much damage or anything like that. Next, we're going to go into the feats. Again, this is going to be a quick fire round on these things. I'm only going to go through properly the things I've changed and why I've changed them. So we originally went with the light paragon path. We went up to 3 points. I think we took Aura of Gifts, then we took Warrior's Bastion, and we took Gifts of Light. So the reason we did that was purely because of the extra heals. You can gain extra defense from the equipment, and then you give 25% of your power to the allies as well as an extra help. That is great. They're really nice. They are really good to have, and I so wish that I could still have them. However, the change in the build and the pulling away of the bubble, we are going to have to sit more defensive, and that's why we've gone with the bulwark path instead. So we're going to look through these ones. Toughness, no brainer, 3 points into that one. You need extra maximum hit points purely for the Aura of Courage, as well as gaining some extra health and bits like that. Then we go up to Divine Action. Activating Divine Call now generates 5% of your AP. So this, of course, Divine Call is obviously your RB. Once you get to that level, you unlock it, and you pop that, and you get 5% of your maximum AP back from it. Then we're going to look into these ones. So we want the haste one, so your encounter powers recharge 6% faster. This is nice, as you'll see later on, and I will explain a little bit quicker. But this is 6% faster on your encounter powers. It's not amazing, but I have to say I do like it. It does do a little bit better, and then I put 1 point into your at-will powers, deal 2% more damage. Reason being, I put the extra points into this one, and the encounter powers, obviously, you can only go up a certain point after you've put some extra ones in, and your at-wills aren't actually the thing that are going to get you the maximum amount of DPS anyway, so that's why I've put 2% in there, one, which pushes it over to the third one, onto here, and we went with Impassioned Pleas, so you generate 6% more Divine Call energy. So this, of course, is really nice. You'll see later on when we get our final point into it, and the very end of the Justice Paragon path. So Divine Call is really great, because later on you'll see that your encounter powers are cooled down with Divine Call, so if you can get that back even faster, then that is great to cool down your encounters. Quicker encounters means more AP, means more DPS, staying alive more, everything that we want in our build revolves around sort of like, you could say recovery, but it's more cooldown times. As you'll see, recovery, and I'll show you later on why recovery is not the massive thing in this build. Anyway, next we move into Steadfast. So I was talking to somebody else about this, and if you want to go more DPS, more than I have, then you need 100%, you need to put 4 points into this Steadfast. You have to put it in because you gain 2% maximum hit points per point of Constitution. So if you get that up to something like 28, or like I have, like 26, then you're going to be getting 2% of 26 like each time, which is a huge number. It's really great to have that extra amount of hit points. But if you don't want to put your 5th one in there and you want to put 1 point in somewhere else, the best one to do for us as that little bit of extra DPS is the Force of Will, which increases your crit chance by 0.33 per point of charisma. So we do have a lot in charisma, so it is a viable one to put into. You could do that. I might change it later on if I can, if I get that extra bit DPS if I need it, but I have got quite a bit of crit chance anyway. Now we're going into the Justice path. The reason I'm going to go through these first is purely because I've done them, and also the 1 point in the end, we want that as soon as you get to like level 30 or whichever level it is when you finally get it. I think it's 50 maybe. But anyway, right, so the one we changed was Swift Flash. So originally when you were with your bubble build, you could run through dungeons really quickly. The increased movement speed was really, really nice. You can't do that now, so what's the point in having an extra increase of movement speed? You're in the battle, you're always in the midst of things, so it doesn't matter anymore. We've changed it to Bond by Light, so it increases your control strength. This is affected by Burning Light and Templar's Wrath, which are both stuns, so giving you an extra increase of the power of those stuns. Really, really nice to have. Next ones we're going to go over to, we haven't changed anything as far as these ones go, so we're still going to go with Flash of Light, so 25% chance to cool down nearby allies' powers, nice help for them. Radiant Champion, you gain 25% more movement speed and 5% cooldown reductions for at least 2 of the other allies within 30 of you. Really, really nice. Again, got to pick it with PvE. Always going to have people around us. Echoes of Light, your at-will powers have a 10% chance to trigger an echo on you. Echo makes your encounter powers instantly recharge. Why wouldn't you want that? If you can pop off your encounter powers and then smash them out once again, why wouldn't you want that? Points in there, 5 out of 5, must buy. Purifying Fire, this is the extra little bit of DPS. We're going to pick this over Prism. Prism used to be great. It's still good, but it's not as great as it was, so we're going to still hit with Purifying Fire. So this is a apply of your at-will powers, stacks up to 5 times, dealing 10% more damage, however, is then removed when you use an encounter power. So this one really kicks in when you start running low on your encounter powers, so your Divine Call has finally run out of 3 charges, your encounters are on 16-second cooldowns, and this is when you want to smash in some of those Valorous Strikes and things like that. You can get some amazing amounts, or bigger numbers than normal. Usually you get in about 5, you can get up to about 12 if you get this right, with all the other things packed up. Then the final one is Vengeful Judge. So your Divine Call now also applies Judge to yourself for 10 seconds, increases your damage dealt by 35%, as well as reducing the cooldown you're currently recharging powers. So that is great. Again, Divine Call reduces your encounter powers, because then later on increase an instant charge of Divine Call. Divine Call then reduces your cooldown. Blah, blah, blah. Big snowball effect. We really, really like it. You're just smashing out encounter powers constantly, things like that. Ho doesn't want that. Now we go into the Bulwark one. So this is going to be the big explanation of why we've changed things and moved stuff around. So originally we had the bubble build. It was taking a lot of damage and you could withstand all of that. Now with the bubble build taken out, sort of, it's not exactly taken away, but it's reduced a lot. We have to put some more into defense, so this is a great way to get your extra defense. So your control resistance is increased by 10%. If we're being held, you want to get out of that as soon as possible, so it's a nice one to have over the stamina. We're not really in stamina a lot, so we can forget about that. To my side, this is really not needed at all, I don't think ever, purely from the fact that if you have allies in the area, like a PvE, they're going to be following you lot anyway, like in a group of 5, and we're definitely going to pick Standfast, which increases your damage resistance and deflection chance by 5% when you're not moving. So a lot of the time you aren't actually moving, you're just standing there taking the damage, doing your encounter powers, popping your divine call, all sorts of stuff like that, and doing divine protector, things like that. So standing still is not a problem for us. And then later on we want sanctity. So when you are healed, you gain a burst of defense, deflection, regen, which is 60 times the value of your own level. So you can only get this every 30 seconds and it lasts for 15 seconds. However, you don't have to be healed by a healer or a devotion paladin. You can be healed by your own sanctuary when you click the left stick. So this, as well as some other stuff that you'll see later on as well, some of the boons, they are affected by your own heals, which is a yes, yes, yes. We want that 100%. Right, next one we're going to go through to the boons. We're going to look at the Sharandar one. Now we want a little bit of a mixture, again, as I say, because we are taking a lot more damage. We're going to be mixing it up a little bit. It's up to you how you want to run yours. If you've picked different artifacts to me and things like that, then you might want to run a bit more over one side. If your artifacts are more attack or your artifacts are more defense, you might want to put some more points into here. There are points in there, or there are opportunities where I think that you guys can change it to what I've done. Go ahead, take this build, mold it, change it, flip it around, do what you want with it. But majority of it is going to be very similar, like the feats are going to be very similar. The boons itself, there are points that I will tell you that I think you could pick the other one. So this one, you're going to have 400 defense and over the 400 power. Later on you'll see why. There are other ones you can pick. We want the 400 deflection over the 400 crit strike. We're going to be taking the 3% action point over the 1600 HP, and then this is one, when being struck by a foe you have a chance to heal yourself for up to 20,000 hit points. Yes please, for the first one, yes we do. Over the DPS, which is the 20,000 damage. Then we're going to go with the Fey Thistle. So this is one that we have changed big time. Originally we had this Elvish Fury, but unfortunately that is not true. 135 power for 45 seconds. People were reading this as 135 per one stack, so you effectively get a absolute shit ton of power, but they changed it. The wording of this is wrong, and it doesn't actually it isn't 135 power for each stack, so that is why I've gotten rid of it, as well as later on you'll see why I've picked Fey Thistle, but it's mainly because of the Shadowclad enchantment that has lately been dropped on a bombshell with us guys, so it matches up perfectly for us to give us some extra DPS and things like that. Then we're going to go into the campaign of the Dread Ring. What we're going to pick, we're going to pick the 250 power and movement over the crit, and then we want the lifesteal over the regen, obviously working outside a battle, lifesteal inside, 3% deflection chance over 3%. This is resistance ignored, so this is armor penetration. People were getting confused. This is marked with your damage resistance. So this is attack, this is defense. We want to go with the deflection chance because of it being with the Fey Thistle. Again, it gives us a little bit extra DPS on there as well. And then Enraged Growth. When taking damage, you have a chance to heal up to 20,000 hit points over a few seconds. After this effect ends, you have 4,000 more defense. So we definitely want to hit that because of that extra 4,000 defense. You must go with it. Being able to get such a massive number in that defense is huge. You have to go with it. Shadow Touched. When dealing damage, you have a chance to deal up to 20,000 and the target receives 25% less healing. So you would pick that if you were in PvP, sorry, purely from the fact that players are healing each other, things like that. When you're in a PvE, bosses don't heal themselves that often. There might be some times when you're against the spider in the Temple of the Spider where she does that stupid like laser heal thing, but it's not going to work out a massive thing. Most of the other DPS characters will have that anyway, so we want this. You want to get that massive extra defense. So in here, this is one as well which you might want to change up later on. So Augmented Thane Bastion, I've gone with this purely because it's a shield, it takes damage and it redirects it out. It's 10,000, it's not massive, but it does proc quite a bit and you do see it when it procs. Some people have gone with Rampaging Madness, which is a really nice one. I have to put my hands up. I would take it every single day. Problem is, it does take a long while for our Paladin to actually reach 50 stacks. When you're as a great weapons fighter and you use your RB and you go super quick at fighting and you do all your counters and at-wills super quick, it's so easy to get up to 50 stacks. With us, it takes us probably about 3, maybe 4 groups of mobs to actually be able to get that up to 50, and it is a shame, but it's really nice to get. Later on we might change it when we've got a better defense, or like they've changed the classes a bit to reduce damage and things like that. But we're going to go with Augmented Thane Bastion, especially for you guys who haven't got to the end game or near enough the end game like I have. You definitely want to be taking this one. It gives you that extra little bit of defense as well. Now we're going to Icewind Dale, and we're going to be going with the combat advantage over the AoE. Reason being, AoE is a big red circle on the floor. If you don't get out of it, you probably shouldn't be playing the Paladin anyway, so get your ass out of there. And then we're going to go with the 400 incoming healing over the 400 stamina. We're not very often in stamina. So you gain 2% crit severity. We want that one over the recovery. I'll show you why recovery isn't a massive thing, so we don't pick that in the boons at all. Again, 2% crit severity. It's not massive, but it's nice. And then we want Cold Shoulder, which is defense, so you reduce the next attack by up to 2,000 off an enemy. It's really nice, but again, we don't want Cool Resolve because we're hardly ever in stamina, and it's based off how much you're missing. And now we've changed this one, so we've gone with Rousing Warmth over Avalanche. Avalanche was really nice. I hardly ever saw it pop though, and when I did, was it that often? Don't really know. I'm not sure. I can't remember. The only thing I see pop is the Thane Bastion, whichever one was in the Dread Ring. So I've changed it purely because Rousing Warmth as well is another one of those which is affected by your own heals, and you can gain up to 3,000 damage bonus on next attack, which is great. Extra damage, 3,000 extra damage, really nice. It says up to, so it's not always going to be 3k, but again, if you're being healed a lot or you get into your Sanctuary because you need to sit back, you have a big attack. Now we're going to go into the Underdark one. So you get 400 defense, 400 crit strike, 10% advantage, combat advantage, sorry, 5% shorter durations when controlled. Again, if you're in there all the time, you don't want to be stuck in the control effects. And then the last one we want to go with is, for me, is the extra damage against the demons. Again, 10% is really nice. There is one up here which is the 5% less damage to you. That is nice, but 5% over 10%, I'd definitely go with the extra 10% purely because we're going to be doing some more DPS, and again, extra damage and extra power, things like that, give us that better number for the temporary hit points with our Templar's Wrath. Now we're going to go into the Tyranny of the Dragons. So we go with 400 power over hit points. We're going to go with 400 deflection over the crit strike. We're going to go 400 armor pen over the defense. And then we go with 400 lifesteal over regen. Again, lifesteal working in battle, regen outside. And then for the last one, I'm going to go various. I'm going to put 3 points into 3 different ones, purely because the numbers aren't massive. Grants 3% increased lifesteal. So if you get this number up nicely, if you get it up to anywhere between 5 and 10%, that is nice, because sometimes it can just randomly hit and you get a really nice heal back. Again, 10% would be the perfect number to sit on for a Paladin, and we want to go with 1 point into grants incoming healing. Why not? You can get heals from people, you can do healing yourself, so 10% incoming is really nice. And grants 5% increased critical severity. So this again is linked with the crit strike, more Templar's Wrath, things like that. Better off for our build. Now we're going to go into the last two. So we got the Maze Engine. So you increased incoming healing by 400. Control effects reduced by 5%. 3% action point gain faster, and I've gone with Behemoth's Might. So I did have this top one, Displace Fate, but if you drop below 30% health, you're probably going to die, and 60% damage reduction is not going to be the best on top of it. So that's sort of like, it's a nice one to have, but as I say, you're probably going to die, so it's going to be a waste of a feat, because every time you get it up, you're dead, basically. So Behemoth's Might really works really nicely. So you're striking a foe, you have a chance to gain 2,000 critical strike bonus for 6 seconds. So again, this is really nice. If that pops up and you get Burning Light, bam, you're getting some extra massive DPS. Or Templar's Wrath, and you get a huge temporary hit point. Last one, Elemental Evil. You're going to go with 300 defense and 2,000 hit points, 400 regen over and 400 regen, 2,000 maximum hit points. The reason we've gone with this one is because if you read the top one, this is lifesteal severity, not chance. Severity is how much you steal from someone. Chance is how often you do it. So we're definitely going to go with the regen for that one. You go 400 crit strike and 2,000 maximum hit points over the recovery. Again, I'll explain recovery. And when taking damage, you have a chance to deal up to 24,000 hit points over a few seconds, and after this effect ends, you have 1,000 crit strike for 10 seconds. So there was another one we went for, but we could have gone for, sorry, but it's recovery, and recovery we don't really need. The only thing from recovery that we want is the AP. That's why it's a little bit higher than normal. Mine's probably pretty low, to be quite honest, but if you're looking for encounter power, cooldowns and things like that, go with some other stuff. Probably try and get that from your feats and bits like that, like I have. But you'll see later on, I'll show you exactly why recovery, in my opinion, isn't that big a deal anymore. So we're going to go with the Gale of Retribution. So companions, definitely go and get yourself one of these guys. You can go and get him in the Tarmalu trade bar, purely because we're sitting around a lot of deflection now. Deflection increases our defense and keeps us alive longer, as well as doing damage, as you can see in here, as well as the Fey Thistle and the Shadowclad. So this one, a deflection does almost no damage and does 4,000 damage to the source of the deflected attack. So this is obviously blue rating, or the rare. The uncommon version is green, and he does 3,000 damage, so it's still almost no damage. You'll see it pop up a huge 0, and it is a massive thing to have. It's really nice. You can save yourself some time and save yourself sometimes. It's a great one to have. I've still stuck with the Archons, purely because of the increased damage on all of them. I'll let you read them really quickly as to why I have them. And then this guy is the Striker, so reflecting damage of 15% chance and 10% of the damage taken. Really, really nice. Another one you can go for is the Yeti, which is hard to get and a little bit expensive, but still very viable, as well as the Rust Warrior, which is in the trade house as well, or on the market. He does a debuff on the attacker, again increasing your defense effectively and reducing the amount of damage that they do to you. Then we go into the mounts, and you pretty much want as many mounts as possible with the 3 points in them. I've got the Leopard of the Chult and the Black Stallion down the bottom. And the reason I've got these ones at the minute is purely because of the stats that they give me and the little buffs and things. But you want to try and get yourself ones with 3. I haven't found many with 3 anyway. But these two here, these white ones, they are bought from the vendor guy, just purely with 5 gold or 2 gold and 50 silver, I think it is. I can't remember which way around it is. And the Winter Wolf, everyone gets it free, so it's a really easy one to have. It also has a nice insignia bonus with the artifacts. If you have Mythic, you're popping this every minute, so that's even better. Why not? Now we're going to run through the gear really, really nicely. Look at some stats of my character. So I have 15,000 power, 3,000 crit, 4,000 arm pen, 3,500 recovery, a little bit lower than most people would say or look at, but I'll show you why later on. And then we have about 10,000 defense, 3,500 deflection. The deflection isn't that high, purely because of the Shadowclad, but we still have put a lot of points in there because it can save you quite a bit. I have 127,000 hit points, as well as the rest of the numbers we'll just look through. So we have almost 20% critical hit chance, which is really nice, 77% critical severity, 40% resistance ignored, recharge speed 20%, 35% action point gain. This is a big number. This is the number you want to get as high as possible through your armor and things like that. Damage resistance is 45%, deflection chance is almost 20%, again, really nice numbers to have. This one, the deflection chance is going to be affected by your Shadowclad. So I'll run through the rest of the stuff for you guys to have a look at and zoom back up. You can pause the video anytime you want, have a look at any stats. leave any comments in below about my gear if you think it's great and whatever, or you don't think it's that great, think I could mold it a bit better. Then we're going to look at the stats of the ability scores. So we put every single point we can possible into Constitution. Again, that hits up really nice with the Aura of Courage. And then the last one is the Charisma, purely because of the action point gain. That is the biggest thing that we want out of this build, still hitting solidly on the bubble. That is the main part of it. So we're going to look at what has changed. So we have the greater armor, the greater shadowclad enchantment, which is our armor enchantment. Reason being, you receive damage. Each hit increases your deflection rating for 7 seconds by 8%. This is with the greater shadowclad. So obviously it's going to be a smaller number for the lesser ones and the normal ones. But it's amazing to have. As soon as I get a deflection chance, I'm straight up to 26% deflection chance. So I have a 25% chance the next time I hit to then proc a deflection, which then increases your Faith Thistle, which deals damage back, and also your Demigod with a deflection chance. It might not even do any damage at all, and it will give back 4,000 attack on top of it. So this is huge. The build now sits around DPS with deflection. You're still taking a smack amount of damage, but with your damage resistance really high and now your deflection up really high, you do take a lot less damage than you originally did. So that is the main thing that sits around that. So with your main hand and offhand, we're going to go with the Twisted, the armor enchant or the weapon enchantment. I've gone with Transcendent Lightning. So the reason we've gone with this one is purely because it does a massive amount of damage. It chains up to 3 enemies, as well as when there's no person on there, it does 33% more damage. So again, bosses, it's an amazing number to have. And we've still gone with the lightning purely because we actually, I've recently learned, looking through Reddit and some forums and things like that, that the threat of the Paladin is a little bit broken, and the only ways you can get it from it are your at-wills and things like that, and smacking the boss around the face a couple of times and things like that, which is a bit of a shame. Binding Oath sort of doesn't really do much. So you sort of have to pop your Binding Oath, then smack him a couple of times, and then he'll start recognizing you, whereas in the thing it says that everyone will attack you for just by popping the button. So it's a bit of a shame, but we're still going to go with the lightning enchantment. You could go with the dread one if you pick that point into the force of will in your feats. That would be nice to get that extra crit up there, but again, it's not a massive thing. Your weapon enchantment, as long as it sits around your character nicely, then go with pretty much whichever one you want, really. But definitely go for a higher one. Go for one that you can get as much into it, so like get a greater one or a pure one, a perfect one. Go for as high as possible rather than the most expensive one out there. Again, with the Twisted, the reason we've gone with this is the Paranoia and the Bloodlust gaining power and defense. Who doesn't want either of those? They're just insane. So you want these ones. Getting extra defense keeps us alive longer. Extra power helps with Templar's Wrath and more DPS. Insane. Why wouldn't you want them? And these ones are the same as well. We've got the extra defense and we've got the extra power onto these. The set we've gone with is the Greater Belt of Black Ice. We get Constitution and Charisma. Again, more points into what we want. And the neck matches up. It finally sits in there nicely with the action points, as well as getting your artifacts up to mythic. So these are ones I've gone with is maximum hit points, power, armor pen, maximum hit points, power, AoE resistance, and power defense, incoming healing. And then again, the Black Ice Beholder sits really nicely with the rest of them, giving us extra things. There we are. We have just finished the Lair of Lost Mouth that we've just finally finished off. We get 14.5 million damage. We've taken 4.5 million damage. It used to be a lot higher. And we even get ourselves almost 500,000 of heals. Killing the most amount of enemies. Nice, I like that a lot. So as I say, we're doing a lot of damage. It is an AoE sort of attack thing, a class, but we're still hitting up the defense, which is really, really nice. And see what we get out the bottom at the end. Nothing great, but we'll keep that for the weekend. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, guys, I will see you next time.